Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Voice of Hope and Justice once again. I am so excited to introduce to you our brother, JohnPepper, and he has got a fascinating story to tell all of us. And I have known John for, how long have you known each other, John?
Possibly about 3 to 4 years, something like
3 to 4 years. And you know, the more I talk with John, the more I'm really inspired how God have actually changed his life. And there's so many parts of his life where it's really, I would say painful, very painful.
Yeah.
But John doesn't hide anything. And he's here to tell his story, to be a blessing to others. And I hope you will, and I believe you will. John, thank you so much for allowing me to talk about your life and to, and you let me into your life, into your heart. And what made you agree to come out in the open?
Well, I became a Christian probably 10, 11 years ago now. I experienced the Holy Spirit. Something happened in my life. I grew up severely dyslexic as a child, and I was severely beaten by teachers and humiliated. And at the age of 50...
Excuse me, did you just say you suffered bullying?
Violence of the teachers. Oh yeah, it was the teachers.
Can you tell us what happened?
Well, I can give you one instance. I was probably 9 years of age, and we'd gone from add to subtraction, and we had 10 tests, and I basically got the 10 out of 10 wrong. And this teacher, he used to have you in at the dinner time, and he was a very violent man. And he had me in at the dinner, so there was no witnesses. And he had me standing at the side of his desk, and he turned the paper, and I saw the 10 crosses. I've got 10 out of 10 wrong. Then he stood up, and then he used his fist, and he beat me, using his fist from the back of the head down to the back of the neck, down the back of my arm. He beat me on my legs, and he punched me so hard, he knocked me face into the desk and knocked me teeth through my face. As I say, I was 9 years of age.
And this was the first time you got hit by your teacher?
No, it wasn't the first time. That was the worst incident, what I'm explaining to you now. And I went home that afternoon. I could barely walk because he punched my leg that hard. I could barely walk on my leg. And when I got home, my mother said, "What on earth's happened?" And I said, "The teacher's done it." And my mother didn't believe me. She thought some boys had beat me up in the street. And I said, "No." I said, "It was the teacher." And years ago, they used to call the officials school board men. And she phoned the officials up, they came, they interviewed me, and they said, "Well, we believe you." I had a week off school, and when I went back, he was gone, he was sacked. But it was all hushed up. So I grew up with a very violent childhood.
Why was that violent, John?
It was violent with the teachers because of the dyslexia, you know.
Right.
So, and they used to use humiliation and all, it wasn't just... they used to sit you at the back of the class with a big dunce's hat on, a big hat with a D on it, you know, to humiliate you.
Oh, really?
And there was many instances, but the problem was, it affected me. As I grew up, I became very aggressive myself, and I thought nobody else was going to put me down, and I was very aggressive.
Can I just interrupt you there? You mentioned about the headmaster. And were there other teachers who bullied you as well?
Yeah.
And were there other children?
Yeah,
Your classmates who bullied
people who were struggling, who had really learning disabilities, you know.
No, what I'm saying is that you mentioned about the head teacher, then the teachers.
Yeah.
What about your school friends? Did they?
No,
They
I
never
was never
bullied
bullied
you?
back by my school friends.
Oh,
No,
right.
never bullied by the school friends. It was the teachers, and it was because of this learning disability. See, in the 60s, obviously, dyslexia wasn't really
That's
recognised.
true.
You were just classed as lazy
Mhm.
if you didn't achieve, and the cure for laziness was corporal punishment. And many things went on in schools that
Yeah.
were all hushed up, you know.
And how did that affect you, that bullying, when you were young? At a very young age, at 9 years old.
Well, it kind of took me self-esteem away. I always say that I felt what it did to me, they stole that love that God gave me when I was born. I had a love, a children's love, and they stole that from me through the violence. And I grew up then, when I became an adult, I become very aggressive, and I practiced the very same on the human race, you know.
What exactly do you mean by that you practice on the
Well,
same way?
I mean, how I come to God.
Yeah.
I took up kickboxing, you know, so I could protect myself. But I was very quick to fight somebody. Do you understand me? It gave me quite a short fuse because I had an inner anger.
Right.
And then at the age of 50, that anger spilled over.
Right.
And that's how I came to God, actually. But what happened when I was 50? It's 11 years ago now. I was in this house on my own on Saturday night. My family had gone to a wedding. I had a wife and a son and a daughter. They'd gone a wedding. And became a gang of teenagers in the front of the house, damaging the fencing, and there was about 10 of them. So I went up to the bedroom to look out the window to what they were doing, and one of them saw me, and he started putting the V's up and verbally abusing me from the window. So I came downstairs. I was so angry. I got a 9-inch knife out of the drawer. I went out and I chased him down the street. And I know if I'd have caught him, I would have stabbed him. I know I would. And I was so angry. Any road. 999 were phoned. I went back into the house. They'd run off. And I thought it was just a matter of waiting for the police now. I thought I'm in trouble now. Any road. The police never came. They didn't answer the 9994 call. And I've never been an atheist, but I've never really understood how to connect with God. And I got on my hands and knees that night, and I said to the Lord, I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to be this angry person and hateful person. And I prayed that God would change me and take all the anger and hatred from me, mind, and replace it with love and compassion. And a month later, that's exactly what God did. The Holy Spirit came over me. It was a month later. I'd started an Alpha course, and I was working away in Chester, and I'd just pulled up in the vehicle, and the Holy Spirit came over me, and I just sobbed, and I wept. And God clearly said to me, this love I'm going to give you, it's a special love, and it's not just for you. I want you to go out and share it with the world. And I want you to go out and take the people from the clutches of the devil, and I want you to put them in the arms of the Lord. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I went to see my vicar. I told him what had happened. And he said, God's touched you. The Holy Spirit's come over you. And from that day on, I was changed. And I felt this massive compassion for people. And I joined a church where their calling was for the homeless and the broken. And I've been 11 years now supporting the homeless and the broken. I counsel them. But the Lord's refined my ministry now. God picks out specific people for me to meet and see. I don't seek them. It's a God thing.
John, let me ask you something about your life when you were married. how did it affect? Because you talk about rage.
Yeah,
this horrible rage.
Yeah, I did have a rage.
And how was your relationship with your wife? Did
Yeah.
that rage affect your marriage, your relationship with your wife?
It did affect my marriage, but I was never violent to my wife.
Right.
One instance when we'd been married probably 6 months, and my wife had said something,
Yes.
and I went into a rage,
Uh-huh.
and I actually put my fist through the front door.
Right.
Because it was either hitting my wife or
Right.
hitting the door, and I punched a hole through a small glass pane in the door.
Okay.
And when I pulled my wrist back, I severed 3 of my main arteries and I severed 3 tendons and my main artery in my wrist.
So that's really interesting because you talk about rage, you know, since you were a child, and you carry that with you all your life into your marriage. But you were never violent towards your
because
wife.
it was just, I knew it was wrong.
Right.
So what I would do is I would go off in a rage.
Right.
I would punch
Right.
or throw probably something about, but I never ever hit my wife in the 37 years we were married.
Tell me more about your wife, your relationship with your wife.
Well, I met my wife, I was 20 at the time, and I met my wife, she was just 17. And, she was a very gentle person, very calming. She had a calming effect on me.
Yeah.
And
so you were really the opposite.
Yeah, we were opposite poles. Yeah.
You were. Yeah. She was very calm.
Very calm.
And
very
you were
kind.
very aggressive.
Yeah, and I was an aggressive. It was an inner aggression.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't aggressive all the time.
No.
But if somebody challenged me, then that aggression would come out. I would never back down.
So because you have this inner rage in you, am I correct to say to you that there was unforgiveness there too?
Yeah, without a doubt. I had a hatred for those teachers, which was, there isn't a day I didn't think I hated them. And I trained and became an engineer, working for the county, the 2 different counties, Shropshire, Staffordshire, and I used to go working in old people's homes, elderly residential homes, and in the local area. And I must admit, if I'd have found any of those teachers, because they would have been at that age then, they would have been like in the 70s, 80s. But I know if I'd have found that guy who beat me, I would have shut the door and beat him.
So how did you manage to let go of that unforgiveness?
Well, what happened was when I became that was the last straw that when I chased down that guy down the street, that young boy down the street with a knife.
Was your wife still alive at that time?
Yeah, she was. They were at a wedding.
Oh, right.
They were at a wedding. They were at a
that.
wedding. And there was only me in the house. But when I chased, that was probably the final thing that it just couldn't go on. It got me broken.
Right.
I was doing an alpha course at the time. And that was when the Lord touched me. The Holy Spirit came over me. And it was like somebody had pulled the plug on a bath of water. And all the anger and hatred just drained away. And I didn't feel any anger or hatred. And I just felt this just amazing love. It's 11 years ago now. It still emotionally affects me because it's still so powerful. And I had counselling off my vicar, Gareth. I had 7 seminars, 3 hours at a time. And we slowly, there was a lot of baggage. I was carrying a lot of baggage. And we slowly broke down the baggage. And Gareth showed me how to forgive. He taught me that he said how important it was that we forgave.
Yes.
And I did completely forgive them. Absolutely 100% forgive them. But, that took a little bit longer to understand me.
Yeah.
Because I had to forgive me transgressors.
Yes.
But I did, and that was the good news.
Do you know something? I know that there are quite a few different courses there that helps people overcome the rage. But what you're saying to me, that yours was really a miracle.
It was a miracle. There's no doubt about it.
Because when you ask help from God, when you just hit the rock bottom, you know, from your heart, you cried out to Him.
I did.
Because you have felt that you have really reached the end of your tether. That was the end.
It was. Because when I came back into the house that night, I thought I've got two choices. I either pray to the Lord and He does something, or I'm going to finish it. Because I didn't want to be that person. It's not something to be proud of, to have that inner anger inside. And I did, you know, I decided to pray, and, you know, I was so in such a state, really, that I couldn't go on with the person I was.
You know, you told me that you have written quite a number of poems. And what I really find is fascinating that you were severely dyslexic.
Very dyslexic,
and God really gave you the ability to write. And you know that every person who has got something in their lives that they needed an outlet. You know, God would have used your writing to express yourself openly. And where other people, when they needed an outlet, they would go fishing, they would go golfing, they would go shopping, or they would do something to take that pressure from them. But in your case, God really used the one thing that is the biggest weakness. And He turned around for you.
And He did turn it around.
Isn't that amazing?
While 11 years later, I'm still in awe of what He did.
Wow.
Because I did pray that God would take all the anger and hatred from my heart.
How many poems have you written?
Over 100 now.
Over 100?
Yeah, writings.
And you have released, you actually released a booklet? On all your writings?
Yeah, when I became a Christian. To give you in brief, when I became a Christian, as I say, I prayed that God would take all that anger and hatred from my heart, and He did. But what I never prayed, I always wanted to write. I had all the information in my brain, but couldn't write it on paper. It wouldn't go from here to the pen because of this dyslexia. And I hadn't wrote, not even filled a form in, for 32 years.
Wow.
32 years.
That's amazing.
And the year I came to the Lord, I wrote 60 poems and had them published. The year I came to the Lord. So, God knew my heart, because I didn't pray to have the ability to write. But I always wanted to write. It was a passion to put. I had so much information, because I've got what they call a photographic memory. I can remember things that have happened 20 years ago in detail, as though they happened just today. So I have that ability. So that's all the poetry. It's like all about my experiences and my life story. So it's like poetry in my life story.
May I?
Yeah.
Just that one. Is this the one, right?
That's the book that I wrote
is the book.
and I published.
Okay.
And it was called,
and how many poems have you written?
There's 60 there, but I've gone on to write probably another 40 writings on since then. Since I wrote that, because that book was written probably 9 years ago now.
Well,
that book.
Yeah. Here is John's booklet full of poems, and you heard him say that he's written this out of all his experiences. And you did mention that there's one that you love, and it's about your father.
And there's a message in this poem. All the poetry has. There is a message within.
John, if they wanted to get, if the viewers or anybody out there who would like to get their hands on this poem, book of poems, where?
Well, at the moment, I'm looking for another publisher, aren't I? So
right. Okay.
Until we get this other publisher sorted out.
Would it be right if they can, if anybody out there who would like to get their hands on this poem, if they can contact us direct? Through our email, The Voice of Hope and Justice. Please go on our website and you will see how to contact us, and I shall be able to direct you and show you how to get your hands on this poem. And I would encourage you to have a read And not just keep it to yourself,
Mm.
pass it on, because this in itself is a testimony of the greatness of God.
Mm.
Which is the one here that is really close to your heart?
The one that's close, I've got there. I'll show it you.
Oh,
and I'll
okay.
read it you. It's there's a message within this poem.
Right.
I grew up. I had a mother, I had a father, and my father wasn't a bad man, but he was quite a hard man.
Mm-hmm.
And he never, in all the time I knew him, he never used the word love. He never told me he loved me. And I never told him I loved him. We didn't have that type of relationship. But he died probably 18 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away, and he had lung cancer, and he was dying. And when he was dying, I realised that I'd never told him I loved him. And I desperately wanted to tell him before he passed that I loved him. And it was almost like a curse, and I couldn't tell him, and he died. But many years later, when I became a Christian, the Lord showed me that time. And God can actually heal the past. And I felt guilty that I never told him I loved him. But God, in this writing, healed me. Because I actually was able to tell him in this poem. And there was a form of healing in there. And the Lord can heal the past. So I'm going to just read this poem. It's called My Dad. My dad is no longer here today, but there are things I need to say. I never told him how much I cared. For my dad I was too scared. He never said that I love you, even though it may have been true. I wish my dad was here today, so I could stand and boldly say, to you, my dad, I love you so, and I think that you need to know. You need to know that I am free of that secret that lived in me. I would tell my dad out loud why I am so very proud, that I have someone that lives in me, that freed my soul and set me free. This man's name was Jesus Christ, and because of him, I'm now alive. I wish my dad was here today, to hold his hand and softly say, to you, my dad, I love you so. The secret's out, and now you know.
That's wonderful, John. John, what is your message to the children towards the parents? Because obviously I know we talk about dyslexia.
Yeah.
And your rage.
Yeah.
And now you talk about your relationship with your father.
It's probably about really talking to your parents. You see, the era I come from was the 60s,
mm-hmm.
And you just didn't talk to your parents. We weren't open. You just got on with it. My mum and dad never really understood the suffering that I had at school. And it was only when that incident happened that it came out, you know. But I would never dream of going to my mum or my dad and saying, the teachers are ill-treating me, you know. Mm-hmm. Because the reality of it is, I was a child, and I thought that was normal. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's about, you know, children now, it's all coming out about them being sexually abused. Mm-hmm. But to them, it was normal. It wasn't, do you understand me? And that's why you didn't say anything. But I think for children today, if they don't feel something's right, you've got to go to your parents, right, and you've got to say what's going on, mm-hmm. you know.
And what about unforgiveness? What can you say about unforgiveness?
I think that's man. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people, thousands and millions out there, who are harboring unforgiveness.
And can't forgive. Yeah.
And can't forgive.
No.
And this is not just about not forgiving anybody who's still living.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are actually carrying unforgiveness, even though the people are already dead.
Yeah.
And from your own experience, and now that you have received the power of God to forgive people, what is your message to the world?
It's very simple. There was a time in my life when I couldn't have forgiven, certain people and would never have forgiven certain people. That was my mindset. But when Jesus comes into your life, everything changes. And when you're shown, Jesus wants to take it, because you're carrying the baggage. The person you don't like or you haven't forgiven, it's of no concern to them. It's not bothering them whether you hate him or you don't hate him. But the thing is, it's bothering you, and it's a terrible burden to carry. And you know, it's so easy for me now. People still wrong me. People, you know, we're always going to go through life where people wrong you. But I just say, it's okay. I'm going to give this to you, Jesus.
Amen.
I'm going to put it at the foot of the cross.
Wonderful.
And I'm going to walk away because it's not what I need. And I know when I put that at Jesus' cross, I can see Jesus now just smiling and saying, thank you, John. I will sort that out.
Yeah.
It's not for you to worry about. So I can just walk away. And that's how I see it. And, you know, I couldn't see that before.
No.
I had the blinkers on, you know. And, you know, when Jesus comes into your life, it's absolutely a revelation. When you say you become a new creation, God opens your eyes and he makes you more sharp and more alert. You see more of the world because Jesus is flowing through you. He's a vessel.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing us your life. And I know that there are so many people out there who needed to hear this story. And, you know, they've got problems in the relationship, in the marriage, with the families, teachers, even employers, neighbors. And in fact, even with your own self, you couldn't even forgive yourself for what you've done. But the message today is only God can help us to let go of unforgiveness. I want to encourage you to ask them to help you. And may you remain blessed and hope to see you next time. God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless you.